are very bad in the animation industry right now. If you're wondering just how bad, well, this year Inside Out 2 did set the record for highest grossing animated film of all time, meaning it made more money than any other animated film ever. And also just today, IGN released this article where they interviewed 10 former Pixar employees who remained anonymous about the crushing working conditions during the making of Inside Out 2, and also the layoffs that happened right before the film came out that prevented many employees who worked on the film from receiving essential bonuses that are a huge part of their income. I gotta be honest, this article was really devastating to read. As a longtime fan of Pixar, as an animation lover, as somebody who studied the medium and has a lot of friends who still work in this industry, this is a very difficult thing to grapple with. Because even though a lot of the times the art that is being made is truly beautiful, the working conditions in the animation industry right now are absolutely dire. Like, it is not okay. And to be clear, like, this isn't an issue that's isolated to just Pixar or Disney. The animation industry has been in kind of a dire situation for a long time. It's been in desperate need of reform. And it's because the way that the animation industry is structured, there's not a lot of equity. There's not a lot of like power balance. And people are exploited. People are overworked and underpaid pretty consistently across the board. It's also another one of those jobs that people get into because they're passionate about it, because they're passionate about filmmaking and animation, like a lot of technical jobs in filmmaking, where they're told consistently, well, you're just lucky to be here. You should be grateful for what you have. Who cares if the money's not that good? You're just lucky to have this job, which is a total bullshit ideology. Now, this article is incredibly comprehensive and it gets into so much detail about how Pixar got here and the pandemic and the writer's strike and so many other factors that led us to this point. Journalist Alex Edmond did a fantastic job and I highly recommend reading it. Some of the biggest talking points of this article are hugely important. One of the biggest that stuck out to me was that allegedly there were some major structural changes at Pixar happening behind the scenes during the making of Inside Out 2, which also directly impacted the way Inside Out 2 was made. Like, for example, Pete Docter, who is the chief creative officer at Pixar, was the executive producer of Inside Out 2, and he was the director and writer of the original Inside Out, but he took a much more hands-on creative approach and started being involved in every aspect and taking on more of like a co-directorial role in making Inside Out 2, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but there's a lot of commentary in this article about how difficult it is to get something made when one person is treated kind of in like a godlike kind of way and everything has to run through this person. The other big takeaway from this article is that Pixar is still a non-union animation studio, and even though they're known for having a pretty good company culture, it is a company culture that is like very work ethic focused and people are expected to give their all. This year when the layoffs were announced, there were some major names in the layoffs, including Angus MacLeod, who is the director of the recent film Lightyear, and Galen Sussman, who is known for being the Pixar employee who saved Toy Story 2 when it got accidentally deleted from their servers because she was working on it from home because she was pregnant. Like, what an incredible story. But anyways, she's worked for the company for decades. And so not only did these layoffs, which were about 14% of the total staff of Pixar, include like long-standing members of the community with significant contributions to the studio, but also many people who worked on the film whose a huge part of their compensation is these bonuses. Their base pay is not super high and they live in a very expensive area in the Bay Area. And the people who worked on this film were not eligible to receive the bonus on the film they worked for because it's contingent on working at the studio when the film comes out. But the other major bombshell in this article is that allegedly there has been a lot of conversation behind the scenes happening at the Disney executive level about why Lightyear was a failure. And apparently the reason why they want to call it a failure is because of the same-sex kiss scene, which, if you remember, was cut out of the film and then put back in after pushback from the employees. And if this is true, and it is all alleged, it would be bad enough to blame the failure of Lightyear on the inclusion of a same-sex kiss, but apparently this is like a studio-wide issue to like deprioritize LGBTQ stories. And even the article says that there were continuous notes given to animators in the production of Inside Out 2 to make Riley seem less gay. And the article says that, scenes were reworked multiple times to make sure that there was no possible interpretation of romantic chemistry between Riley and any of her female friends. Which I can't even, it's so fucking disappointing. Surprising, no, but disappointing. And here's the thing. This is what I've been saying about Pixar and Inside Out 2 and my videos about franchise media in general and the effects of late stage capitalism on the film industry and art in general. But the thing is, it's getting harder and harder to compartmentalize. And while I really do believe that a lot of the people in charge at these studios are genuinely passionate about the art that they're trying to make. I've been a Pixar stan from day one, and I believe that the people in charge at Pixar genuinely care about the product and their employees. But I think that we're getting to a point where it's the ends justify the means, and I just don't know if that's true anymore. And I feel like change needs to happen. Change needs to happen. And I really, really hope that these Pixar employees find a great place for them. But the industry is just not a very kind place right now. And I don't know what that's going to look like. I mean, maybe it could look something like Aardman Studios. I feel bad ending the video on such a bleak note. But there are rays of hope in the film industry and in the animation industry. And Aardman Studios is one of those. They're employee owned. They're the creators of Wallace and Gromit. And they do have a new movie coming out this year, Avengers Most Foul, which I'm personally very fucking excited for. So I don't know.